Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. Well, hello everybody. I like to make my own pizza dough. I think this is the first time I've tried making the Italian Neapolitan dough that's used in the Naples area of Italy. And this is take two, in case that bowl's looking a little damp to you. I need 20 ounces of bread flour. Take one. I got this all put together, and then I thought I'll send the recipe to my sister. So I sent the recipe to my sister, and she says that's the same recipe that I use all the time. Did you notice that the amount of salt that they have mentioned to use is double what you're supposed to use? Well, I didn't notice that. I used 4 teaspoons of salt, thinking it was a lot, but well, go with the recipe, right? It's only supposed to be 2 teaspoons of salt. So get my 20 ounces of flour. There we are. Right on. 20 ounces exactly that time. Now I've got to get my salt and yeast back out again. It's 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. I keep mine in this container in the freezer. It lasts for years if you freeze it, literally. I buy it in 1 pound package, which is what this holds. And my last 1 pound package, I just finished using it up a few weeks ago. Heavens, it must have been 3, maybe 4 years before I got it all used, because I now make all of my bread is now sourdough, so I don't very often use the other kind of yeast. And 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, it specifies. Well, this salt is kosher. It's not the one that's labeled just plain kosher salt. This is a sea salt. What makes salt kosher is that it has no other additives, so that's just a pure sea salt. And next we will be adding 13 ounces of water. And the scale here maxes out with all of this, so I measure out the water in a separate bowl. 13 ounces of tap water, and I'm just using cold, fresh from the tap, not warmed or anything. And we have 13 ounces. Mix the yeast and the salt into the flour. Add my 13 ounces of water. Now it just gets mixed by hand until all of the flour has been incorporated. This doesn't get kneaded. It has a very long fermentation period. Proving, whatever you want to call it. I only had pizza in Naples once, and it was quite different from pizzas that I've had in other areas of Italy. Not exactly like what we would have here, but more like you would find in an average pizza shop here. The crust itself was thicker, and in most of Italy it tends to be a very thin crust. I've just been looking online and watching some videos of some of these lovely pizza ovens for home use. Wow, are they ever expensive? I would love to have one, but can't can't justify the expense of over $800 for a small. They're wonderful from the YouTube reviews and things that I have seen. Very, very, very nice, but $800 is quite an expense if you're only going to be making an occasional pizza with it. One that I was looking at called Rocco, I think is the brand name. What they call their oven. I guess it's not the name of the company that makes it, but it will work either with propane gas or wood. And it was $800 plus taxes. Okay. Now that just gets covered and sits at room temperature for 8 to 12 hours. So, it'll be around 10 p.m. this evening. It's 10 a.m. right now. So, bring you back for phase 2. I, of course, will put the link to the recipe down below, as I always do. But please remember when you're making it to ignore the instruction for 4 teaspoons of kosher salt and use just 2. Well, the instructions say that this first long rise should be between 8 and 12 hours. This has been going for about 11 hours. Amazing if you can see the bubbles and things in it. And now you turn it out onto a lightly floured surface. Sort of bringing it together into a ball here so I can weigh it. They don't say to weigh it, but if I divided it into 4 equal pieces myself, they wouldn't be very equal. So I prefer to use scales. Okay. Guess it's about 33. Yeah, well, now it's gone down a bit. A little over 32, almost 33 ounces. So if I get each piece 8 ounces or so, that would be roughly equal, I guess. If I can get it to stop sticking to the board. More flour there. Wasn't bad. Just a little over 8. That's a bit under. Good. If I can get to stay on the scales would be good. That's about the same as the last one. This one's going to be a bit heavy, I think. Not too bad. Divide that amongst some of the other ones here. Now the idea is to make each piece into a ball. Either put it in an airtight container or into a Ziploc freezer bag, and I'm going to use a Ziploc bag. I won't make you watch me do all of them, but I've got a bag here somewhere, I think. Sandwich bags is what I'm using, actually. It'll do the trick. I'll show you all 4 of these when I finish. Well, there they are, all in individual bags, close to being equal size. Now these get refrigerated for at least 48 hours and up to 4 days. So In the intervening period, I'm going to carry on here. I plan to make my own mozzarella cheese to go on it and my own pizza sauce. What I'm going to make is sort of a margherita pizza, which usually has basil and tomato sauce and mozzarella cheese, just the three toppings. For some reason this year I'm not growing basil. I don't know why. I always did in the past, but I just didn't do it this year. I'm going to take some of my sage and finely julienne a couple of sage leaves and sprinkle those on top. So my margherita will be a bit different, but move on now and we'll make the cheese and the sauce. Phase 2 of the Neapolitan pizza is making the mozzarella cheese, if you're going to do it all from scratch, like I'm trying to anyway. Mozzarella may not be the easiest cheese to make, but it's pretty close to the easiest cheese you could make. Maybe making ricotta or cottage cheese is a bit easier, but once again I will put the recipe down below, and it's from the New England cheese making company. I'm following their recipe. They also sell a kit that you can make numerous batches of mozzarella cheese with. So if you are interested, you could get a kit from them that will have all of the required ingredients. First, I'm mixing up some citric acid, a teaspoon and a half, and what I've got there is the half measure, so 3 of those of citric acid. This is what makes mozzarella stretchy, the adding of this much into a cup of just cool tap water. It should be dechlorinated water, so if you have chlorine in your water, you could buy a bottle of spring water to use, I guess. A cup of water. And while I'm at it, I'm going to mix up the rennet. A 1/4 teaspoon of rennet in a 1/4 of a cup of water. That doesn't get used until later on when the milk has come up to temperature, but it's ready. Now add the citric acid to the pot that you're going to heat the milk in, and then add the milk. 1 gallon, I'm using whole milk, a gallon or 4 liters, I think either would work just as well. If you add the milk to the citric acid, that gets it mixed in really good. And it will start to sort of curdle the milk because it is very acidic. That's quite alright. Now this gets heated up to 90 degrees. I'll take you over to the stove and show you how I'm doing that. I have the milk in just a stainless steel stock pot with a heavy bottom. And I have it on, my stove is a gas range. I have it set as low as I can possibly set it. I have to bring it up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And I can see some curds have formed already just from the citric acid. I'm not doing the hot water bath thing if you've watched me do other cheeses before. This is just a simple matter of heating this up to 90. You don't have to maintain heat or anything after that. It's quite a quick process. So just watch it very carefully that it doesn't get a chance to scorch on the bottom and that it doesn't overheat. But I'll bring you back when I have it up to 90 degrees. We've just reached 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I've shut the heat off. And now I'm going to add the 1/4 teaspoon of rennet that was mixed into 1/4 cup of cool water. Just an up and down motion. Thoroughly combine that. The milk. cover it and wait 5 minutes. It can also take longer than 5 minutes, but we will check it in 5 minutes time. Well, it's been 5 minutes, so we'll test it and see what we think of it. Looking for a clean break. Yeah, that looks about right to me. All it took was 5 minutes. Usually takes much longer than that when I'm making hard cheeses. Maybe it's because of all the citric acid that's in this. And now it gets cut into 1/2 inch dice. If you've watched any of my cheese videos, you've watched me do this. You know how boring it is. This is a very quick cheese. We're more than halfway through the process. Now I will do the other direction and bring you back in a minute. And now the cooking process begins. Turn the gas back on here. On a very low flame. And this gets stirred gently until the temperature comes up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't want to stir it too vigorously because that will cause the curds to break up and the milk solids to be released from the curd. So this shouldn't take too long. It has to come up another 10 degrees, but I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like when I get it up to 110 degrees. I guess I misspoke just a bit. I'm using the microwave method. It's the only method I've ever used in making this, and in the past it's worked. So if you're using the microwave method after this initial cooking phase here, you only have to raise the temperature up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is what I'm doing. I'll bring you back when we get to 105. Something that I didn't mention, I guess, the Neapolitan mozzarella, the favorite mozzarella in Naples and I guess throughout most of Italy, is mozzarella di bufalo, made with buffalo milk, water buffalo, which is the only buffalo. We quite often call the bison here in North America a buffalo, but they're not. And I don't know any place here in North America that keeps a herd of water buffalo for their milk, but it's certainly done in Europe, especially in Italy. I had the mozzarella di bufalo once. It wasn't in Naples, I think it was up in Tuscany somewhere, but it is definitely delicious. A different flavor than we're used to here, but I really liked it. So I'm almost there. I've got this up pretty close to 100 degrees. Well, it just reached 105, and now I'm going to remove the whey. So meet me over at the sink and I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to try to save the whey this time. I'm going to be making sourdough bread tomorrow and I want to use the whey for the water in the bread mix. I'm pouring it through a colander. There's a large stock pot down below to gather the whey. I'll let that drain for a minute or so until all of the whey has come out of it. Well, most of the whey has drained out, but there'll still be some there. You have to keep removing it. Moving it now to a bowl that can be microwaved. This one is Pyrex, I guess. Oven safe, microwave safe, and all that kind of stuff. I have a pair of just these food service gloves. I have them just for cheese making, but at this point I could just use my bare hands, but after this has been in the microwave it comes out, it's very hot, so even a little bit of thin latex or whatever these are makes it easier to handle them if you don't break it getting it on. And I'm just pressing on it to try to remove as much of the whey as possible before it goes in the microwave. And at this point you can add some salt. I'm actually going to be using what they call a cheese salt. Buy it from the cheese making supply company. But all that means is it's a very finely milled salt with no additives. It doesn't have any iodine or anything like that in it. So 1 teaspoon. And this goes in the microwave for 1 minute on high. Well, that's after 1 minute in the microwave on high, and it is hot. Very hot. But it is starting to become very, I don't know, elastic might be what you would call it, I guess. I'm not sure. I've got to get rid of the extra whey there. And now I'm going to work it just, I think it might be unbearable without the gloves because it's plenty hot with the gloves. You can see how it's turning into something smooth and glossy like a good mozzarella should be. They call this a 30-minute method. Well, finished within an hour or so anyway, I guess. Okay, that's all the way out of that. Now it goes back in the microwave 2 more times, 35 seconds each time. So here we go again. This is after the first 35 seconds. I'm not getting a great deal more whey released. Some, I guess. Ooh, hot though. Smells good too. We're ready to go in the microwave for the final 35 seconds. There wasn't any additional whey came out of it that time. And that is after the last 35 seconds. That should complete the cooking part. Now to get it to cool down enough that I can knead it some more. Very soft at this point because it's super hot, but kneading it like this, it cools off quite quickly. I wouldn't want to be doing this with my bare hands. Getting a little cooler. Or my hands are getting more used to it, one or the other. I'm trying to get it cooled down enough so that you could pick it up in your hands, and the final bit of the process is to pull it like toffee. It's got to be cool enough that you could handle it to do that. Try to weigh this too. It's supposed to make about a pound from a gallon of milk. More or less. I'll bring you back in just a few seconds when I get that cool enough to work with. Well, I think that's cool enough for me to handle. If I have to lay it back down, I will. But just keep doing this, and this is what gives you the nice strands of mozzarella. And it's fun. Getting tighter. My hands are getting hotter. Now, I'll try to shape it into a smooth ball if we can. I'll get the scales out and see what that weighs. I did do a little bit more kneading off screen there. Oh, it's over a pound. 19 ounces. 18.96 ounces. So that's about 3 ounces over a pound. So got what we were supposed to get out of it anyway, I guess. Now, I will divide that, and I'll be using about half of it, not all, on my little pizza that I'm going to do here in a bit. But I'll keep half of it out for using. I have a vacuum sealer, and my plan is to, once it's really cool, to vacuum seal the other half of it. I don't see why that wouldn't keep in the refrigerator as long as mozzarella that you buy at the store keeps if you don't open it. So keep for a week or two anyway. So the next thing we have to do is make the sauce for our pizza. Starting to put together the ingredients for the sauce, which is more my sauce than an authentic Neapolitan sauce. Although I'm doing one thing right here to begin with. I'm using San Marzano tomatoes, and that would be what would be used in Naples without a doubt. I'm going to try to pour off a lot of the juice. If I was making a pasta sauce, I would include the juice, but it's a pizza sauce and I want it to be a bit thicker. Have to find some other use for that juice. Maybe chill it and drink it. Sounds good. Now, rinse my hand off here. I'm just going to take a stick blender. I don't want this to be a puree, but I want to break up. I want to break up the tomatoes, sort of some pieces in there are okay. Whole tomatoes, and the onion is from my garden. Just a rough chop, that's all. One of the smaller. Most of my onions so far aren't very large. There's still a few that are growing in the hoopos, but they're not very large. And in honor of the occasion, I pulled the first garlic. This hasn't been dried or cured or any of that good stuff. It's just a few minutes out of the ground. So hopefully I'll be able to find the cloves in here somewhere. I watched an interesting video just lately on onions, a thing that they reminded me of. I think I'd heard it before somewhere. Onions, each one of the leaves, those green stalks, is related to one of the rings in an onion, so you know how many rings there are going to be by how many leaves there are. Curious as to whether that applies to garlic. each one of the leaves is a clove of garlic. I'm not sure. So that's 1, 2, oops, 3 going on the floor. I'm not going to use all this. I'm just counting the cloves if I can get it to part. 4, 5, 6, 7. That is exactly, for this one, it had 7 leaves and possibly a little scrawny thing that could have developed into another leaf but didn't. So maybe that holds true for garlic as well. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to put a couple of cloves in, just thinly sliced. I got to get the odor coating off of this one. I guess I didn't do that. I think I did. No, I didn't. Hope nobody goes to sleep watching this video. It's getting kind of long. Okay, there's that. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of hot chili flakes. I add less if you don't like things too much heat, but 1 isn't too much. In Italy, they call it peperoncino. And it's always, I lived with 2 different families, worked on 2 different farms, and lived with 2 different families in Italy. And both families had peperoncino on the table. Just in case the cook hadn't put enough heat in, you added your own. And this is 1 tablespoon of the Italiano blend of herbs, which I really like. So this happens to be Clubhouse, but there are several companies that do it, and it's really quite good. So, let's move over to the stove. Okay, the saucepan has been heating up for a minute or so. Add a liberal amount of extra virgin olive oil. Ow. And the onion and the garlic. Just saute that for a minute or 2. Get it a little softer. Stirring it, you don't want the garlic to burn. Bring it back in a couple of minutes. Well, it's been a couple of minutes. I'm going to add the pepper flakes and the herbs just briefly before I put the tomatoes in. Infuse that oil with all those nice flavors and heat. And here goes the tomatoes. And that basically is it. I will turn the heat way down low and let that simmer, stirring it occasionally for a half hour or so. And that is my pizza sauce. I don't think I said, I haven't checked the video, but I added 2 or 3 grinds of salt to that sauce. This is what the pizza dough looks like after 48 hours in the fridge. I think I might have deflated it a bit bringing it over here out of the fridge. The other 3 bags I have put in the freezer. It freezes beautifully. Any pizza dough freezes beautifully. When I was going to use it, if it's been frozen, I would take it out the night before and put it in the refrigerator and let the thawing take place in the refrigerator. And then the next day you would proceed as I am here. This comes out of the refrigerator. I'm going to try to make it into a ball. It's icy cold, of course. It's been in the fridge. Rolling it under my palm here on a spot that doesn't have any flour. Won't roll very well on flour. And I'll put a liberal amount of flour down here. And that just sits there, rests covered for 2 hours before you make your pizza. So The sauce is bubbling away nicely. I'll bring you back in 2 hours' time. It's had its 2-hour rest, and the oven and my pizza stone are preheated to 550 degrees. 550 degrees because that's as hot as my oven will go. If I could get it to go any hotter, I would. I've put a lot more flour down here. I won't attempt to throw it up in the air. I never have attempted to throw it up in the air. The little pizza shop on the, well, I don't know what the name of the street was, but seemed to be the main street in Naples that was running along the Mediterranean. You could look off and see Mount Vesuvius on the other side of the water. The man in there who prepared my pizza for lunch threw it in the air, really made it look quite easy. I think that's probably about large enough. I don't want the outside crust to be too thick. As I said, my oven is at 550, and over a while of doing this myself and in my own oven, for me, about 8 minutes at 550 will be good. These wood-fired pizza ovens and things are even much hotter than that, and most of them do a pizza in 3 minutes. So, some of the sauce. Saucepan in the way and you didn't see anything, did you? That will do. Some of my mozzarella. And just a little bit of sage, finely sliced into little slivers. Sage is a bit stronger than basil. And I can get it on my peel. I put a little flour on the peel. I'll slip that in the oven on the pizza stone and bring you back in 8 minutes' time. Now, I like to let mine cool a bit before I cut it, so I'll bring you back in 3 or 4 minutes' time. Well, the leftover sauce will keep for several days in the refrigerator, but it also freezes very well, and that's what I plan to do with mine. So let's give this a cut in and see what it's like. Still very hot. That looks pretty good to me. I want to burn my mouth. I'm going to let it cool for a few more seconds yet before I taste it. Well, let's give this a try. Crust is done nicely. Very flavorful crust. And the sauce and the cheese is good too. Well, very good. Talking with my mouth full again. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you'll give some of this a try. At least make the crust yourself, the dough. If you're not into making cheese, or the sauce is very simple to make as well. I think the cheese is myself. So I'll put this thing together and get it uploaded on YouTube. I hope nobody fell asleep. It seems to me like it's been going on forever. Thank you for watching.